Alright then, so hello everyone. Welcome to Dynamic Racing League's GT for the first ever season of this series. So Dynamic Racing League is back. Unfortunately I am very far from being well at the moment, so I do apologize about that. So I expect a lot of coughing, a lot of sniffing, a lot of things. But of course, exciting new season that is beginning here today. Starting off at a very traditional circuit for Dynamic Racing League. It is of course Blue Moon Bay Infield A. And some new faces, of course, some returning faces as well. Current fastest actually is Nilsman. He's currently at the top of the standings with the 106.490. This is all practice at the moment, driving for Scuderia Nuke Shotty. Yes, I really did name the team that. As qualifying is about to get underway, it would seem. Unfortunately, it's not Snippy Boy who's meant to be commentating alongside Mimika today. It's meant to be Brandon, but Brandon is dead. So you just got a very ill Radish here today, but I'm gonna do my best. Again, I do apologize in advance. Let's take you through some of these cars. So of course we've already mentioned Nilsman. He's currently there. Felix is actually racing, so if you're wondering where he is right there in the Audi Sport Team RL car. A little bit wide out of turn 4, that's allowing Tetsu Kobura to get past in the checkered flag Motorsports car. Another one to watch. He was trading fastest laps with Nils earlier on. Weiber, teammate to Nilsman, he's currently third on track in another Scuderia Nuke Shotty car. Already seen Felix, but a bit further down there you see Sailor making their return. So of course racing for Team Black Diamond in that Audi. Haribo sponsorship on the sides. Fantastic to see. Newcomer to the series, Jack Mia in a Lamborghini Huracan, so a car that has been very unstable in the past, but with the recent patch it has become a lot more raceable. They are racing for LK Racing, one of the most interesting new teams, I would say, on the block at the moment. So should be one to watch out for. Again, complete unknown at the moment. These guys on their laps. John Wandering currently going a bit wide. We just caught that. Yellow flags out in sector 2. Then he's going to try and get his car straightened out as fast as he can. He's driving for Foxcatcher Racing in that McLaren. His teammate is NS Rhino, who is currently in 9th. You can see the matching, very simple, very crisp looking bright white McLarens. So he's currently going on to a lap. Joseph Burns, the other LK Racing Lamborghini. This is what I was talking about. These guys looking very competitive with their very professional looking outfit, I have to say. Loving the black and gold scheme. We've had a first laps actually from guys. So currently it's Tetsu Kobura with a 106.6. So I did say they're one to watch out for. And it's certainly proven to be the case. Of course, here's someone we are quite familiar with, going side by side with John Wandering at the moment. It's Dynamic Carbon for Dynamic Esports. Of course, in the BMW M6, we would expect nothing else from the Irishman. So he's making his way around. Sailor's gone back into the pits meanwhile. And I believe that is all 10 of our cars currently. So, Tetsu Kobura for Checkered Flag Motorsports currently in the pole position by 1.5 tenths from Nilsman. And interestingly is one of the Lamborghinis of Jack Mia, who is currently third but still 7 tenths off the pace. Joseph Burns, another newcomer, the teammate currently fourth, although Weiber has just jumped up with that lap they've gone up to third and are very close to the time of Nils actually. So, and Ferrari, another car that was very slidey before update, now a little bit better than it has been in the past, and both of these guys are doing quite well at the moment. As Sailor leaves the lobby, I believe he's just going to get his livery fixed or something along those lines quick. Oh, Nils currently up there. Actually, Carbon currently third fastest, only 2 thousandths off the time of Nils. We'd expect the M6 to be quite strong around here because it relies on quite a lot of downforce, and there are quite a lot of twisty sections in this sort of second sector. And cars coming across the line. Nilsman improves, and so does Tetsu actually. Tetsu keeping around the 2/10 gap. Carbon making their way through. Jack Mia doesn't improve on that occasion. And indeed we are missing some Dutchmen at the moment, but who knows, maybe sometime in the future we'll have to see. Mika in the chat. Again, track limits are very vague around here regarding some of the lines and such. But Carbon currently a purple in Sector 1, which is quite interesting. As actually it seems that Nils has managed to get ahead of Tetsu, and we're going to go for an onboard lap of the circuit with Tetsu's car, who just goes even faster with the 106.2. But here is the circuit, very bumpy entry into turn 1. Tetsu getting that pretty much spot on. Might need increased ride height, some setups, but then again it does hamper you on the rest of the circuit. There's a car stopped in sector 2 at the hairpin, by the way. And again purple, the slipstream's only helping as he makes his way through 3 and 4. Wybear going into the pits, probably just to get a fresh set of tyres on that car. Again, following the Ferrari as they make their way through the hairpin and then up towards the double apex. He's lost a little bit of time through there. That's probably the dirty air coming off the Ferrari that's not helping him on that occasion. Carbon's actually got up into second ahead of Nils, so that's interesting to see. But that is your onboard lap of Blue Moon Bay, and Nils getting out of the way as Tetsu goes on to another lap. I'm about to sneeze, but I can never actually see. It's so annoying. This stupid illness of mine. Oh, apparently Brendan isn't dead, he's just in Mallorca, so... well, fair enough. Tetsu running a little bit wide. Carbon just came across the line, didn't seem to improve on that occasion. Now, Wybear, actually in the slipstream of another car. That would be John Wandering. He goes on to a lap. So it's currently nearly around 2/10 slower than his teammate at the moment, but still, we know Nils is a very experienced driver, and Wybear certainly seeming to find a fair bit more pace in the car than he has in previous DRL seasons. That certainly seems to be the case. Reaper in chat cheering for dynamic racing. You'll be glad to know Carbon is currently second in qualifying. Or perhaps not glad to know, because he's currently 5/10 down of our current pole setter Tetsu Kabura. Checo Flag Motorsports making a very solid image for themselves so early on. Nils making their way through as well. Oh, a bit wide from Nils it seemed. Wybear about to come up towards the line again. It's currently a 106.0 by Tetsu. Don't think it's quite going to be that from Weber on that occasion? No. What can John Wandering do? John Wandering is currently in 8th position. Running a little bit close to the wall. Of course, you do have to do that here. Another car to watch out for actually is Felix. He used to be on the Nuke Shot Motorsport team back in DRL DTM Season 1. Or at least for the earlier part of it. Used to be the first ever commentator on this channel as well. He's back into the racing seat here, driving for his own team. Sparks coming off the wall as it gets just the perfect amount of close, making his way through the last corner. Of course, it is a 15-minute qualifying session, as we have seen in pretty much all DRL championships up to now. Currently 5th is the car of Joseph Burns, 63. Very famous Lamborghini Motorsport number. They also see Tetsu perhaps just lining himself up to get into the slipstream, although more than likely just clear air with that kind of distance. But Joseph making his way through the last corner. What will he be able to do? Not quite an improvement, 3/10 down. Their teammate, meanwhile, is about to come across the line. That's Jack Nia. A fantastic noise from the Lamborghini. Can't improve on that lap. Good thing about qualifying on this particular circuit is it is a very short lap time compared to a lot of others, so you do make up quite a lot of laps. So if you have a mistake on one, then it is far from over, unlike, of course, driving at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Carbon seemed to improve a little bit on his time. The gap is around 4/10 now. So Carbon in that BMW M6, this car is very, very used to. Of course, very experienced with it as well. Knowledge serves me correct, Tetsu Kabura is actually very experienced with the Mercedes as well, and that's certainly seeming to be a factor in this one so far. There you see Nils just running a little bit wide, clipping the wall, as there are several cars leaving the track. That was a bit odd. So with all those leaving the track, that puts Nils up to 2nd. No doubt it'll drop back down to 3rd or 4th. Tetsu actually making a pit stop is coming out now. But Nils, interestingly, using the slipstream of another car. I believe that is John Wandering, given Rhino is in the pits. So again, just trying to use the slipstream as Weber comes across the line to go faster than their teammate by 0.5 So fantastic effort from the Indonesian driver. Of course, very committed. Of course, in Indonesia at the moment, I believe he said it was around 2 AM. Saw the very positive side of that, saying it makes it feel more like an endurance race that way. Nils comes across the line and betters his own time, putting him a 10th ahead of Weber. So both of these guys doing a very good job improving their times. As we're about to go into the final 2 minutes of this race. Qualifying session rather. Carbon back on track. There you can see the gap less than a 10th between him and Nils. Let's see what the other guys are doing. The Lamborghini of Joseph currently 2/10 ahead of their teammate Jack Mia. As that's a car round at the hairpin. That's John Wandering, I believe. Yep, manages to get the car going again, so that shouldn't in theory hinder the lap times of the chasing pack, although Joseph is ghosted. He's got the hazards on, so that would imply that they are paused. As that's a very slidey Jack Mia going into turn 4, manages to keep it on the road. Do they have damage? No, they do not. as I forgot to turn notifications off as I usually do. Fantastic job, me. We're going into what will be the final minute of this one. There's a car that's only just rejoining the circuit. I'm not quite sure who that was. Oh, it was NS Rhino. Oh, Foxcatcher. So the Foxcatcher car making their way back onto the track. They missed quite a lot of session actually, just being in the pits. I was just waiting for a gap in the traffic. They're running right behind their teammate there, John Wandering. John Wandering currently faster than them by approximately 6/10. Still, Tetsu Kabura fastest of all, but they've ran a bit wide, so I doubt that's going to be improvement on this particular lap. Nils, meanwhile, has actually gone faster than Dynamic Carbon. So that's a fantastic effort from the German to put his car up into second. As I'm about to call the flag warning. There we go, the flag has been called. And that would be the last lap of everybody as soon as they come across the line. As Nils runs wide, so they're pretty much out of contention. Carbon actually improving on their time. We're about to see Jack Mir. They're about to come across the line. Can they improve on their time? No, they can't. Can Weiber? It didn't quite look like it. As I believe that was Sailor actually up into 5th, so fantastic effort from them. Joseph didn't seem like they improved their time, certainly didn't improve their position. It's all going to be down to Dynamic Carbon. What can he do? He does indeed go faster, puts himself closer to Tetsu and ahead of Nilsman. But it isn't quite enough. Got a couple more cars making their way around. That's John Wandering. Can they improve? No, they can't. But they have managed to out-qualify their teammate, nevertheless, NS Rhino. But it is CFM, or Checker Flag Motorsports, Tetsu Kabura, who takes the first pole position of the season here at Blue Moon Bay, infield A layout, of course. Get close to the grass, perhaps just picking up a bit of marbles, as they do in Formula 1, who knows. Everyone just being instructed to park in Sector 2, and that is exactly what they are doing, so fair play to all of them. Teammates park next to each other, it's always good to see. Just gonna quickly switch to some onboards here. I believe Nils is running a slightly older spec livery, but nevertheless. So, of course, pole position goes to this guy, Tetsu Kabura, on their debut to the series. I could be mistaken on that. Certainly, the debut of this series. So, fantastic effort by them. It's going to be the guy currently in the pits managing stuff, Dynamic Carbon, will be second after a very heated display between them and Nilsman. Although that is the car of Weiber that we're currently looking at. I believe Nils's car is the one closer to the left hand side of the screen behind the McLaren, and I think there's another car mixed in there as well. Revving the engines. In the end, it was Joseph Burns who out-qualified their teammate Jack Mir, so good job on both of those to secure the third row of the grid. Felix could only manage 7th in the end, but still, solid result on his return to DRL. Managed to get out ahead of John Wandering and NS Rhino. Although it'd technically be 8th for Felix because Carmen did qualify 2nd. Here are the live timing results, so there you can see no one breaking into the 105s, but Tetsu getting the closest 19 thousandths off. My stomach and rib cage and all sorts is absolutely killing me, but I'm just about managing, I think, here. Interesting to see Sailor manage to get into 4th despite them having to quickly change their livery due to the regulations. So good effort by them to get up into what will effectively be 5th after Carbon gets back on circuit. Someone's revving their engine somewhere. It sounded a bit like a Lamborghini. Normally the Ferraris are a little bit more raspy than that. So yellow flags are out. We're currently in the break period as per usual. Race will last for around 1 hour. So we're going to be bringing you plenty of action here to come on the Dynamic Racing League YouTube channel. Still not part of the Radio Show Limited network, but we're getting there. Maybe one day. Oh dear, stupid nose. Why must I be dying constantly? So according to the schedule, we have about 4 minutes extra of waiting. Of course, we are starting a brand new championship now featuring more Group 3 or GT3 spec cars than the DTM series did. We've gone from 3 to 7. The tracks we'll be visiting this time around will be here at Blue Moon Bay on the Infield A circuit. Next time out it will be Interlagos, followed by Nürburgring on the GP circuit. Catalonia is round 4. Round 5 is Brands Hatch on the GP circuit. Dragon Trail Seaside makes up round 6 in Croatia. Round 7 is still to be decided. Round 8 will be taking place at Monza. Round 9 will be taking place at Red Bull Ring. Weather conditions, who knows. And of course the finale will actually be taking place on the Nürburgring 24-hour layout at night. So that is going to be a very spicy race. LK Racing esports team in the chat, of course, cheering on their drivers Joseph Burns and Jack Mir. Fantastic debut by them, already to qualify in what would be the points if it was DTM. I've got to quickly look over the point system here. Point system, it is a case of everyone who finishes will score points, but it's a case of 20 points for first, 16 points for second, 14 points for third, 12 points for fourth, fifth will get you 10 points, 8 points for sixth, 6 points for seventh, 8th place will get you 4 points, 9th place will get you 3 points, 10th place will get you 2 points, and every place below 10th will get you just 1 point. It's also good to see that it is the start of a new season, and we do have a very packed grid, as we usually like to see. Some competitors not present, which is unfortunate, but I think the majority are indeed here, so that's good to see, and very good to see a lot of the newcomers as well have managed to attend, and everything seems to have gone smoothly regarding that. Carbon giving the final briefing to the drivers, and we should be getting underway very shortly. Clarifying with pace lap, I believe there is no pace lap. We haven't had a pace lap in this series before. Regarding the actual tyre wear and such, and fuel consumption is ×1 for the most realistic settings of possible. Just gonna quickly check something. Is a pit stop mandatory this season? It has been in the past. Yeah, a pace car would certainly be a cool addition to the series. I mean, it would mean one less racing car, but still, it'd be a nice little addition. I'm still going through things here. Still scrolling, hold on. Of course, you're not allowed to insult each other. I forgot that was a rule. Peasants. Oh no, you're gonna deduct me a 5-second penalty or something, I don't know. Yes, all drivers must pit for new tyres at least once. That is indeed a rule. That is in the penalties section on the thread. As the final has finally been started, pun not intended. So we are about to get racing underway here for round 1 of DRL GT Championship that has been very highly anticipated. It has to be said, it is Tetsu Kobura for Checker Flag Motorsports on pole position. It's Dynamic Carbon for Dynamic Esports alongside the two Scuderia Nuke Shoddy cars in 3rd and 4th, Sailor for Team Black Diamond in 5th, LK Racing in 6th and 7th with Joseph Burns ahead of Jack Mir, and Felix for Audi Sport Team RL currently in 8th, and I believe 9th and 10th are John Wondrin and NS Rana respectively. Green, 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 and the cars are off. Rolling start here, so we're experimenting with some new stuff as opposed to the grid starts that we are very used to here in DRL, so it should be a very clean turn 1. And indeed, Tetsu Kobura does seem to lead with relative ease going through there. It's going to be a case of who manages to make up the most time with this sort of semi-clear track that they get at the beginning. Scrolling through some of the guys. So everyone seems to be roughly how they started at the moment. Has John Wondry getting a little bit close to Felix, but still, it is Tetsu Kobura who is leading them off. And in fact, it's looking like Nils is perhaps getting a smidge close to the back of Carbon. They're going to be within slipstream, are they? Looks like it. That Ferrari is very good at the twistier section of corners, so they're going to be in with a shot. Meanwhile, Widebear coming under a bit of pressure from Sailor here. They come down the straight for the first time. Also at the back, I believe that's the LK Racing teammates going side by side as well. The black Lamborghinis has a bit of contact as they make their way down towards turn 1. Sailor just about getting it done. But look at this, Widebear back down the inside going into turn 2. Ooh, very close to the wall. Fantastic racing room there, and indeed, Wybert back up into 4th, so great driving by both of them. That's an LK Racing Lamborghini, very nearly getting it all wrong. We're gonna see if we can get a replay of that. Indeed, it was the car of Jack Mir just dropping onto the grass, and if that was pre-update physics, no doubt the Lamborghini would have gone round. So he's very lucky in that sense. Still, the battle go on as it would seem Carbon is losing touch with Tetsu at the moment. Closest battle on track seems to be between Wybert and Sailor. Could you repeat from last time, except this time Wybert is on the insideline.com. Still the Ferrari just about holding out. V8 versus the V10 in the Audi. And again, the two teammates, Jack Mir, still just about defending from Joseph Burns. Felix also starting to come into the mix a bit. In the bright red Audi. Again, these two teammates are very, very scrappy at the moment with each other. No team orders between them lot. Or at least so far. We are only on lap 3, has to be said. So Dynamic Carbon has actually managed to catch a little bit of time to Tetsu Kabura, who's lagging a little bit. That's a bit of a concern. But nevertheless, he's going to be in the slipstream. We're going to go on board with Carbon. You see the BMW M6 just seem to have a much better run through there. Does Tetsu have damage actually? We're going to go 3 wide, as that's a very aggressive move by a Nilsman. He's going to be down the inside. He's going to try and see if he can take Carbon as well. No, he can't. But no damage for Tetsu. So that is very intriguing, that they just seem to lose a little bit of pace all of a sudden. There's a car that's gone off. I'm really not sure who that is at the moment. It was Jack Mir. So one of the LK Racing Lamborghinis. We're going to have to quickly see what's going on here. Was it Felix that got involved? Seemed to just about get alongside. Was there contact? Oh no, the Lamborghini just seemed to really oversteer. And I'd say Felix wasn't at fault for that at all. It was just a case of the Lamborghini very unsettled going over that section. Nils having to defend a bit from the chasing Mercedes behind. They're going to have to do their best to not let Carbon escape either. Good thing for them, they're still within that 7/10 slipstream gap. I'm absolutely dying here in the commentary booth today, but the racing just about keeping me alive at the moment. The adrenaline of just watching, let alone for these guys who are driving at the moment. Some fantastic overtaking we've already seen so far, hopefully more to come. 54 laps here. Of course, due to it being a very short lap time, very high speed, and very short as well in terms of the track length. As there's a car that's gone into the pits, that is Jack Mir, who's now repairing their damage, so they're going to rejoin quite a bit far behind. That's really unfortunate for them. Nils currently the meet in a BMW and Mercedes sandwich. Making their way up to start lap 6. I'm going to go on board with Nilsman. You can see how much the Ferrari is able to close as they set the new fastest lap of 1:06.8 dead. Interesting different lines being taken by the two drivers. We'd expect the Ferrari to be a little better through the corners, being mid-engine as well. We've seen that with the Audi R8 in the past of DRL DTM. As Carbon runs a little bit deep, that's allowing Nils to keep with him. A bit further back, Wybert still ahead of Sailor, and Sailor just about getting back into the slipstream range. So no doubt Wyvern will be coming under threat on this straight. There's quite a lot going off at the moment with this particular scrap and the scrap a bit further back. Will Sailor be able to get a run? No, not quite. Not enough on that particular attempt. Now he's just going to have to try and stay with the Ferrari as they seem to get quite a slide on. Let's see this on the replay. It looked like a little bit of a slip from the Audi. Wasn't the case in the end, as that was Wideband running a little bit wide as Nils is actually overtaken by Tetsu on the run down to the hairpin. We're going to have to catch this one again. So what happened here? So Nils just couldn't really use the full width of the track because they had a bad run, a bit of a twitch. That allowed Tetsu to easily get past and outbrake him going into the hairpin. Nevertheless, Nils still within slipstream distance. So the top three start a breakaway from the rest of the pack at the moment. Tetsu, Pulsar, don't forget, really chucking that Mercedes around going into turn one. A lot of drivers don't have that kind of confidence through there with the kind of bump that there is. But the American doing a very, very good job. Now currently holds the fastest lap of the race, getting very close to the back of Carbon. They make their way through the second sector going up towards the hairpin. All three of those guys pretty much taking an optimal line through there. Again, right on the limit. Still extremely close at the moment. There's 54 laps in the race. Just noticed the same as the racing number of Tetsu Kubura, 54. And now as they go on to the straight, we're going to go on board with the American. But that BMW just has some kind of straight line speed that is absolutely unheard of, it would seem, at the moment. So Tetsu forced to just stick back for now, as there's something else going off, it would seem, a little bit further back. It looks like Tetsu's getting extremely close to the back. I'm gonna see if I can quickly get a replay of something. It seemed like Wybear and Salo had a little bit closer. So that's Tetsu trying to go around the outside of Carbon. Will it work? If he manages to stay alongside, it's going to be the inside line. Carbon's outbroke himself, but manages to carry the speed round, and that's bringing Nils into the mix as well. And make their way onto the straight. So I'm going to quickly see if I can get this replay of what happened here. It was between Wybear and Sailor, if I recall. I believe it was coming up towards turn 2. It just looked like on the minimap there's very, very close between them. It looks alright, everything seemed to be okay. Nils managed to get up ahead of Tetsu on that occasion, so we're gonna have to see a replay of that as well. Was it just down the straight? So much replay to catch up on. Tetsu just really nervous on the brakes going through there, and very opportunistic from Nils, just sending it up the inside. So good job by them, taking advantage when necessary. Go further back again. Wybear coming under a lot of pressure. If anything, it's starting to be the top 5 staying together, as Wybear seems to be catching up to the back of Tetsu. As that is Carbon actually going into the pits early. He has rear aero damage, so what on earth happened to Carbon? He's had that for quite a while then, so it might have just been a little bit of contact. Nevertheless, he goes into the pits. And Nils is our current race leader, who seems to not have any damage whatsoever. I'm starting to wonder whether it was... yeah, front aero, and that's Tetsu going off. I'm starting to wonder whether it was a collision going into turn 1 between Tetsu and Carbon. And now look, Wybear going up the inside, and Sailor going to try and take advantage too. It's going to be a real uphill struggle for Tetsu from now on. They was looking so strong earlier on, and now it is a Scooter in Nuke Shoddy 1-2. How about that, lads? So the Ferrari seeming to be very strong at the moment in just staying robust and staying competitive. I'm going to happily give my drivers credit for that. Tetsu with that front aero damage. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do much on the straight. No. Sailor easily manages to breeze past, maybe in the braking zone. No, not quite. Meanwhile, I'm going to quickly see what was happening back here. It looked like it was certainly someone that seemed to get it a little bit wrong through here. Was it Joseph? Nope. Oh, no, it was the other Lamborghini actually of Jack Mia. Sorry, it's a bit all over the place with the replay there, but nevertheless, with Jack Mia just very, very slidey at the moment. The Lamborghini is actually wearing its rear tyres a fair bit, so it has been fixed a fair bit, has the Lamborghini, regarding that, but perhaps just the team not quite got the setup down regarding rear tyre wear and rear slip, and those tyres are starting to degrade a bit faster than they'd like. Onto the straight again. Sailor not in the slipstream of Wybear, and that's going to be quite crucial now, because Wybear might be starting to gap Sailor, because they were right together only a few laps ago. So that means that Wybear is starting to pull a bit of a gap, which is good for me. I'm not biased at all in any way towards the green cars. It's not like I'm their team manager or anything, but nevertheless, Sailor managing to pull a bit of a gap on Tetsu. Of course, we know Tetsu with the front aero damage. After a bit of contact, we can only assume with Dynamic Carbon, based on the fact of the front aero damage to them and Carbon with the rear aero damage. And now look, Sailor has actually managed to catch up a bit through that last little section, and is indeed going to be in the slipstream. I don't think they're going to be quite close enough to challenge the Ferrari going into turn 1, but they're certainly going to be closing up to them. Perhaps the dirty air affecting them a little bit. They're losing a bit of time, so the gap is fluctuating very close to the inside wall. Tetsu doing a very good job to hang with these guys at the moment. Of course, I know for a fact that he is a very, very experienced driver. Has raced in the Nuke Shot Endurance Series in the past, in Season 3, with a McLaren. I remember having a very good scrap against him myself, so certainly a driver to watch throughout the season, despite not having as much luck at the moment. No, actually, it's even worse, Reaper. The second driver for Dynamic Esports is not even here at the moment. They see it's only 10 cars at the moment. Jack Mia is still just sliding about. Really just struggling. Tyre wear not kicking in overly bad, but still. But there's the only Dynamic Esports car on track at the moment. Dynamic Carbon, their teammate, who I believe goes by the name of Kansup or something along those lines on Discord. I can't quite remember their PlayStation Network name. Nevertheless, look at this, Carbon trying to challenge Felix. So these two having a decent little scrap in the midfield. Glad we managed to catch this. As Carbon is looking to the inside line, will outbreak Felix and just about get that move done on the R8. Will Felix be able to do anything in return? Not quite. Not at this stage anyway. As there's a car going into the pits. I believe that's the car in fourth. Indeed it is. Tetsu has decided that enough is enough and they are going into the pits. Perhaps they just missed out on the slipstream range and that was what convinced them to go into the pits on this occasion. Of course, they would have lost a fair bit of time just by staying out with the aero damage. They do get that fixed. Good to see. And now they rejoin the track in very clear air behind Carbon and behind Felix. 41 seconds ahead of John Wandering. So the Foxcatcher guys not having the best of times at the moment. Nilsson with a 5.2 second gap. Things going absolutely fantastic for both of the Scuderia Nuke Shoddy cars, first and second overall. Still a lot of race to go, lads, but the team manager is very pleased at the moment. But Sailor is looking certainly within challenging distance going into turn 1. Wybear seems to just hold their line, sort of allows Sailor to go to the inside. Could have been a bit more defensive from the Indonesian. There's contact. They're just about hanging it around the outside, are they? Oh, a bit more contact as he gets squeezed into the wall. Very aggressive driving from Sailor there, but it sees them up into second. We're gonna see if we can get a replay of this last little section. You can really see squeezing them right to the outside. Enough room for a car. Still a little bit of contact, so who knows. Sailor currently in second from that. Wybear down to third, but still will be trying their best to hunt down the Audi R8. Let's compare tyre wear on both of these cars. So very even actually between the two, which is quite interesting to see. The Ferrari seems to have a little bit of an edge on a straight line, it would seem, because Wybear was catching despite not being in the slipstream range. Yeah, I think Wybear's also going to try his best as he runs a little bit onto the grass. That could have gone so wrong for the Indonesian, and he is starting to drop back a fair bit after that. But he would have been trying his best to hold Sailor up to prevent Sailor from mounting a charge to Nils, who's currently 6.3 seconds ahead. It's fluctuating a fair bit. Nils is actually going to be coming up to a little bit of traffic in a moment. You can really see on the mini-map as someone's gone round looking at the mini-map. I'm not sure who that was. Oh, was it Jack Mia again? I seem to rejoin the replay a little bit early, but nevertheless we're going to quickly see what happened here. It did look like... Actually, no, it wasn't Jack Mia. Who was that? Who on earth? It was Tetsu. Tetsu just seeming to get it wrong going through there and picking up more damage. So that is extremely unfortunate for the pole sitter. And indeed they are just going to have to come back into the pits from that. So they might have just clipped the grass a little bit or something. Meanwhile, for the lead, it would seem Sailor, in fact, no, that is just a car lapping, or being lapped by race leader Nilsson. I got a little bit scared there for a second. But that was, I believe, yep, NS Rhino. Currently in 9th for Foxcatcher Motorsport, or Foxcatcher Racing. Teammate still just about ahead of them. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the road, it is John Wandering, the fan favourite of Dynamic Racing League if you're new here. 8.5 seconds up the Always has been, always will be. He's flashing his lights to the cameras. Again, could be running a little bit wider on exit there, but just driving within his limits, I suppose, at the moment. The gap, interestingly enough, still increasing between Nils and Sailor. And despite Weiber being out of slipstream range, oh dear, excuse me, sorry about that. And despite Weiber being out of slipstream range, Sailor can't really shake him off. And you got to think, this traffic coming up, which is Rhino, who's actually gone wide. What Rhino goes wide, perhaps just to make sure that he stayed out of the way, guys. So fair play to him for that, I suppose, if that was the intention. Otherwise, it was just a mistake. Anyway, after that second pit stop, Tetsu is down to 7th, with Felix 6th, Calvin 5th. Joseph doing very well actually for the Lamborghini squad of LK Racing. Debut to the series, of course, Joseph Burns, 63 in the username, so I'm going to assume it's car 63. Indeed it is. Fantastic black and gold scheme on that. It looks like he's being reeled in a bit by Dynamic Carbon. Carbon still, perhaps, looking to improve this season in particular after a very controversial and very close call, but just missing out by 2 points in the end to their teammate in DRL DTM Season 2. Of course, it was a fantastic finale. The stewards did investigate, but of course, champions still remain the same. Interesting thing, King of Talk, who was Carbon's teammate last season, no longer a part of Dynamic Esports. He has decided to join, I believe it's the Grip Runners Motorsport program. It might be going under a different name, but it's basically that team. It's the Lamborghini looking very strong. Blue flags out as these guys are starting to catch up to the charging Rhino in the McLaren. Get the McLaren, from my experience at least, one of the more stable mid-engine cars compared to the likes of the Lamborghini and such, even the Ferrari. Of course, the physics changes such as Carbon had a little bit of a twitch going out with the double apex. And now look at this. A little bit held up, it would seem. Joseph Burns had to really get out the throttle. Hazards were flashing, and that's really allowed Carbon to take massive advantage. Joseph going defensive. Into turn 1 they go, as someone seemed to be pretty much stopped dead up the road. I'm not sure who that was. I'm gonna see if I can get a replay on that in a little bit. Look at this, Carbon trying to go on the outside of the LK Racing Lamborghini, and indeed manages to do so. Oh bother, I think I've messed up on the controls here. Who was it? I think it was John Wandering, was it? No? It looked like someone in that rough area seemed to get it a little bit wrong. Jack Mia, meanwhile, has left the lobby, so that's the first retirement. Unfortunate to see, of course. Nils still doing an extremely solid job out in front. The gap, 7.8 seconds. So it might have actually been Jack Mia after that particular incident or something that would have eventually left. I am not 100% sure on that. Meanwhile, Sailor still can't shake off Weiber, as another car's just gone round, and who's that? Carbon's going to be coming up to them. That is a McLaren. Oh, they're just trying to find their way off of the racing line. Oh, I'm not sure who that was. There goes the other McLaren, so it's not Rhino, it's John Wandering. We're gonna go on board with Jono, see what happened here. Oh, he just ran too much speed through there, and when you have half of your wheels on the tarmac, half on the grass, it just ends up in a spin, and that was exactly what happened there. So John Wandering now behind their teammate, now really just sliding about like a Slide McGee, as I believe that's Felix in the back, and we'll to potentially lap them. Blue flags out again, very short track, so a lot of lapping occurring. The gap now just over 8 seconds, or it's fluctuating again. I think the closest thing on track at this particular time would be, I was a battle for a second, but I'm just going to quickly go through these guys. So Carbon is starting to gap the Lamborghini of Joseph. We're going to quickly monitor the tyre wear on both of those. Yep, Carbon looking a lot better for tyre wear actually. But then again, I don't think Joseph has made a pit stop. I might be mistaken on that. Of course, we're getting into around the pit stop time, around halfway into the race. Only one is mandatory. So of course, save as much time as you can. You generally want to pit at the halfway mark, or perhaps, depending on your traffic situation and such, maybe get an undercut or an overcut or something on the guys around you. But generally speaking, that is what you would do, is pit at the halfway mark, which should be at the end of lap 27, which these guys are coming up to. So Sailor still can't quite shake Y-Bear off. Still managing to hold on at the moment, a little bit shaky over the curb, but that's generally just how the Audi seems to react to curbs. I think Team Black Diamond's done a fantastic job with the setup on their R8. But also Y-Bear, who we've seen in the past in DRL, not really had as much success as they're having at the moment, challenging for second, gaining a lot of time in that slipstream. Look at this, here comes Y-Bear looking down the inside, backs out of it. Probably knows when a move is too audacious and decided to hold back on that occasion. Gonna go back on board with the Indonesian driver. Car 99 was originally going to be car 16, but the number was taken. Fun little story there. It would seem that the Audi R8 is a little bit better suited to this twisty stuff. You see the delta increasing a little bit, but the Ferrari seem to have a little bit of an edge on the straight line, which you wouldn't really expect given it's a V8 versus a V10. Nevertheless, no doubt Y-Bear just staying within this sort of distance is helping Nils a lot with gapping both of them, so Nils is going to be very happy with the job that their teammate's doing. As they just about get into slipstream range again, won't be enough to make a move going into turn 1, but again, very consistent on hitting the apex, which a lot of people do seem to say they struggle a lot with making that apex consistently, as Y-Bear's actually gone off. Y-Bear off into the barrier. Bit of a commentator's curse, although I was referring to another corner. So Y-Bear off, very lucky to have a very soft impact against the Armco. No damage incurred besides the time lost for the Indonesian. So car 99 moves on. That's going to release Sailor to see what they can do in the Team Black Diamond Audi. It's certainly seeming to be a bit of a mid-engine car fest at the moment, with the top 3 all being such. Nils actually coming into the pits this lap, so just about 1 lap over the halfway marker. Sailor, interestingly enough, staying out for one more. Wyber coming into the pit. So both Scuderia and Nuke Shiny machines are going into the pits. Perhaps in Wyber's case, looking to get a bit of that time gained again from the undercut. Nils rejoining the circuit. Looks like they get out just ahead of Dynamic Carbon. There is Carbon. And then his relatively worn rubber. You gotta think he's not quite going to be able to stay with the Ferrari, but you never know. Wyber, meanwhile, has rejoined in 5th, so Joseph has managed to get ahead of him. Felix also into the pits for Audi Sport Team RL. Making their way out. They've dropped down to 7th, or were they 7th already? I can't quite remember. I think they dropped a position based on where Tetsu was. So Tetsu back up into 6th from well, where they started on pole, but you gotta think they'll be a little bit disappointed. Sailor's staying out. Sailor, actually his front tyres are in quite good condition, so he's just going to be using the clear air, I think, to see if he can do his absolute best to get a gap up, which is certainly a feasible strategy. As there's a little bit of scrapping and overtaking going on a bit further back, was there? It looked like the positions just seemed to swap around a little bit. No, everything seems to be fine. Sailor still making his way around. Will he pit this time? I don't recall if he has actually pit before. I'm sure he has in his racing career, but it is a mandatory stop. But I was just trying to stretch these tires as long as he can because they have the heat in them. The gap between them and Nils, because actually Joseph must have gone into the pits as well, actually. So that might be in the car that was shuffling around a bit. So, oh no, Joseph didn't go into the pits, so Joseph just lost. Oh no, they didn't lose time. I'm getting confused between Nils and Wyber again. My apologies. My very sick brain is doing a very sick job of monitoring this race. Hello to Joe Witt in the chat. I am dying, that's how it's going. I am very, very ill. And in fact, Carbon is managing to get close to Nils. So that's quite an interesting development, as NS Rhino has just gone into the pits for Foxcatcher Racing. There you also see, I believe that's the car of Sailor of Team Black Diamond, choosing to not go into the pits again. So, interesting strategy there. Gonna go rear wing cam on Nils's car. You can see I did actually change the rear wing with a bit of a livery edit, but Nils still running the older version. I'll have to remind him before next race to switch to the updated one. Nevertheless, you see Carbon had that BMW M6 seems to be one of the cars that's a lot stronger and dirtier compared to a lot of others, which suggests mechanical grip, but we know it's also a very downforce heavy car, so it has a lot of strengths, and it's certainly becoming apparent. It is a worn tyres, or relatively worn tyres compared to Nils's. Nils actually managing to get a fair bit closer to Sailor, so Sailor's losing a fair bit of time here on the Delta. It was around 10 seconds before, now it's down to 9, verging on 8. Carbon not the best of exits, but will just about have the slipstream to carry up. So we're a bit far back on that occasion. A bit further back, Wyber. They'll also be looking to see if they can get up ahead of Sailor when Sailor does eventually have to pit. Joseph, they're doing a good job in 5th. They actually see Tetsu really closing up to the back of that Lamborghini. I don't recall what they were doing in terms of setup, Joe. That's how professional I am at being a team manager. But the Lamborghini very strong on the straights. Interesting. Stronger than the Mercedes, that's for sure. Nils can't quite break away from Carbon. Carbon is doing a very good job staying with it, although Nils actually purple in that sector, so his tyres is fresh rubber, as he's just about half on fuel, so no need to pick the fuel again. A Sailor does indeed go into the pits. Oh, the brightness as we changed camera, that was absolutely amazingly atrocious. So I do apologise for all of the burned retinas. Nils does indeed go fastest lap of the race of 106.1. I really think that was the wrong call by Team Black Diamond to leave Sailor out as long as they did. Although, it would seem that they come out in fairly clear air and a fair bit ahead of Y-Bear actually. So Y-Bear seems to have lost out a fair bit from all of that kerfuffling. What's going on here? That's the Foxcatcher car that's being lapped by the leaders. In fact, that's both Foxcatcher cars that's about to be lapped, so Nils up ahead at the moment. Oh dear. Joe Witt in the chat. I can't be bothered, man. No doubt Nils is in the slipstream here, so that's going to really help him get a bit of a gap to Carbon. No doubt his tyres will be up to temperature by now after the pit stop. That is Carbon going into the pits again. Now that is an interesting call. Apparently the rubber is quite worn, but it's still not overly worn. Nevertheless, they're going into the pits again, and that Y-Bear is easily going to be able to get out ahead, but perhaps just focusing a bit more long term. We still have around 20 or so laps to go. Perhaps just thinking that those softs won't last to the end, so he might as well slap on the new ones. Although he has lost out another position. Sailor on a bit of an island, as we normally say about the Norwegian. Jokes aside though, 9 seconds to the Nilsman, 5.8 seconds to the Y-Bear, pretty much by himself at the moment. There seems to be a little bit of something going on here. That's Joseph Burns perhaps defending a little bit from Tetsu Kobura, so these two being very close on track. You're seeing this again. So this is Tetsu perhaps just trying to line up the outside going into double apex. Didn't quite work out on that occasion. Now going on to the straight, that Mercedes, surely, we know the Lamborghini is extremely strong on the straights, which is a pain in the neck for me to say out loud like that, but nevertheless it does pull alongside, does the Merc. The Lamborghini looking for a very late apex, does indeed get it. Will they actually manage to get back alongside? In fact, I think they do. They do get alongside. Late braking by the Czech Flag Motorsports car. That was very brave to do that around the outside of turn 2. And Tetsu does just about get it done. So a very good recovery drive. Although, look at this. Joseph Burns trying to go on the outside of the hairpin. Perhaps get a bit of a cutback. Oh, a little bit of a slip from the Lambo. Can't quite manage it. But then again, you got to think. The straight line speed of the Lamborghini as they very slide McGee-ish out of the double apex. You got to think it's going to be enough to perhaps just get a lot closer going towards turn 1, as they are still in the slipstream range as well. Down the straight they go. You can see the Lamborghini catching, just pulls out the slipstream. Interesting line actually. That's a very, very wide entry by Joseph. And it seemed to work the lap before to get a little bit of a switcheroo on them. Meanwhile, what's going on along here? That's Sailor getting past one of the Foxcatcher cars. And actually hitting the wall, will they pick up damage? No. So, Sailor should be good to the end. We believe everyone should be good to the end by now, I think. Lap 38 has been started of 54. Wybear still trying to make the gap close between him and Sailor, who's got the Foxcatcher McLarens in the way at the moment. Oh, that was very slight. That someone got off actually. Who was that? That was a. Oh, it was a Foxcatcher McLaren. Okay, so was that Rhino? I believe it was. Yep. Oh, there. Come on, there we go. So, just clipping the grass on the first bit, and then just trying to make up the time. Just lay on the brakes. Into the barrier they go. They've picked up damage from that. That's going to cost them a fair bit of time. So Rhino back down to 9th. It's been switching between the two Foxcatcher McLarens actually quite a bit in this race. Carbon now making his way past one of them. That is John Wandering. Will John Wandering actually be able to challenge Carbon? No, it seems like he backs out the throttle. There's another pit stop coming. I'm not quite sure who it is at the moment. Actually, no, it would be Rhino. Yep, to repair the damage, perhaps. No, doesn't need fresh tyres. Can afford to stay out. Actually, do they take fresh tyres? Oh, it looked like they might have. Actually, so they're going to rejoin. I believe that is the car of Felix. Yep. So Felix making their way down through turn 1. Has actually had a bit of success in the past, I believe, in the DRL Super GT series that we had. It was like a very, very original series from back in the day. I believe the preview event was here, and he ended up taking the win. That was before we had streaming capabilities on the channel. Of course, thanks to all 8 viewers, actually. That's quite a lot of viewers by our standards, who are tuning in, listening to my very sick voice. Not the good kind of sick, either. Here at Blue Moon Bay. Again, I do apologise for getting ill. I know, very unprofessional of me. It is still Nils leading everyone away. They're currently on lap 40 or 54, so we're definitely getting to the closing stages of this one. Their last lap was a 106.420, so he's absolutely blazing around the track at the moment. There you can see. Of course, that 10-second gap. Nils just needs to not do anything stupid, and he should end up taking the win here. Sailor still trying to make up that time. And you can see the delta though on the straight. Both of those cars didn't have slipstream, and the Ferrari just seemed to edge away from the Audi R8. So a track that seems to really be suiting Ferrari, and indeed the Scuderia Nuccioni team, first and third at the moment, was 1-2 very early on in the race, but Sailor decided he wasn't going to have that. I'm going to have to start paying Sailor off in order to give us 1-2s. I mean, nothing. Actually, that's quite alarming. Dynamic Carbon has been taking out quite a lot of time on Wybear. Now, we did see they did make another pit stop earlier on, and that did drop them down the order a fair bit behind Wybear. And now on the fresh rubber, no doubt they are going to be catching. They were very strong in qualifying as well, was Dynamic Carbon, actually faster than Nils, our current race leader, so no doubt they have pace. Car 24, of course, has had its fair share of amazing results in the past. There will be 3 different manufacturers on the podium. Who knows? Making their way through turn 1 again. It would quickly do a tyre wear of days. Actually, Carbon does go fastest of all by a 10th through sector 1. The tyres are very similar, but you can actually see that Wybear is carrying a little bit more fuel. So the car will be a little bit heavier. It's almost like he's got success ballast in the first race of the season or something. Nevertheless, he's doing a good job at the moment keeping Carbon out of slipstream range. Really needs to just keep Carbon out of slipstream range, because as soon as he gets there, he is, well, gonna not stop harassing Wybear till the checkered flag, it has to be said. Gonna really hurry the Indonesian along is the Irishman, Waddles the Duck, as we used to call him. Still charging round. Still, again, purple sector 1. So the BMW M6 seems to be very strong through sector 1. I think it's sector 2 that the Ferraris have the advantage. And possibly sector 3 as well, because we saw the straight line. A bit like Ferrari in Formula 1 at the moment. Indeed, the gap is closing down. It just dipped within a second. It's gone up again. That's a bit of a slide from Carbon. That's going to cost him a bit of time. And indeed, you can see how the Ferraris would have gone a lot faster. Look at the scrape on the outside wall for the Dynamic Esports car. He's going to have to go another lap without slipstream here. Again, you can see the Ferrari also just pulling about a 10th or so on the straight. It's not like the M6 is a slouch in the straight line either, it's just the Ferrari is a very strong car at that part of the circuit. And again, consistently purple in sector 1 is the BMW M6. And the gap is starting to close down a fair bit more than it was. Carbon runs a little bit deep. And the gap is about increasing a little bit, it's fluctuating so much. I'm starting to lose my voice altogether now. Oh dear, I'm dying. I've made it this far, I can't quit now. Pain. Much pain. But still, Carbon can't quite get into the slipstream range. Thanks, Joe, in the chat. Thanks for the F to pay respects. So everyone besides these two are relatively spaced out on track at the moment. I'll go through the order as we approach into the final 10 laps of this race. That's actually why we're going very wide, and that's just going to allow Carbon easily to get through. We're going to have to see a replay of this. Gonna go on board with Wybear's car. It just seemed like they outbroke themselves slightly. In fact, no, it was a case of them getting on the power a little bit too early. And they picked up damage from that as well. So that's really unfortunate to see. And that means that that's possibly going to put Tetsu back into the mix as well. Now, you gotta think, 10 laps to go. I'm not 100% sure if it would be worth it to pit. Because if you pit, you're going to lose out to Tetsu anyway. So you might as well stay out. I believe the car behind Joseph is a further 7 seconds back from Tetsu, so you might even lose out to them. Meanwhile, Sailor making his way through yet another Foxcatcher Racing machine. That's being given blue flags. But anyway, the race order, it is still Nilsberg with a very healthy 10-second lead, who is ahead of Sailor, making his way through Sector 2. Running a fair bit wide, as that's actually One of them, I think that was Rhino, just seeming to lose it a fair bit. Currently in third, it's Dynamic Carbon after the mistake from Wyber, who is currently running fourth. Personal best through Sector 1, it would seem, by Tetsu. In fact, no, overall best, I mean personal best through Sector 2. As they will be catching Wyber, they're currently in fifth. Joseph Burns, they're currently the highest of the LK Racing Lamborghinis. In that very Haas F1 or Lotus F1-esque paint scheme with the black and gold. Again, fantastic car to see. It'd be interesting to see how they do for the rest of the season. Felix for Audi Sport Team RL. They're currently in seventh. About a minute and 1 second down, but still a very, very solid drive at the moment. Almost faultless from what we've seen, anyway. John Wandering is a couple laps down, I believe. He's currently in 8th and 33 seconds ahead of their teammate Rhino, who is in 9th and might actually be holding up Carbon a little bit. But no, indeed leaves the door wide open on the outside, so fair play to them. My face is so sore right now. Keep going, Radish, keep going. Oh dear. Dying. But nevertheless, the racing still just as exciting. Nils, actually the gap started to come down a bit. Oh, okay. No damage for the Nilsman. It just seems that Sailor might have picked up his pace a little bit, or perhaps a mistake from the German. Perhaps Nils is starting to manage his pace a little bit more. Now he is getting towards the end of the race. Hey, it wouldn't surprise me. He is smart enough to do that. Again, Wyber currently fourth. The gap is closing between them and Tetsu. It's now 6.6 seconds. There is Tetsu for Checkered Flag Motorsports. Car 54. Indeed, we'll be gaining a fair bit on the straight, or actually, no, they're not gaining that much on the straight. And yet, Wyber does have damage. I'm gonna assume that was because of the Foxcatcher car giving them slipstream, which is extremely fortunate for Wyber, because with, what, about 5 laps to go, he really is getting to the point where he needs to try his best to not lose a second per lap. Tetsu will be trying to catch up as much as he can. He perhaps might have figured out that because of Wyber's dropping pace that he might have damage. He might have also been listening to the chat, in which case that is a psychological advantage and a half if he's listening into the stream. Racing around at the speed of sound, or not quite, 150. I'm going to quickly see what kind of speed they can get up to on the straight in this Mercedes. Just tipping 160 miles an hour before the braking zone of turn 1. It is quite a long straight as well. You also got to factor in the fact that there's a very fast flowing banked corner leading onto the straight, so that sort of extends the straight in that sense, as Tetsu does easily seem to get past Foxcatcher car, so no trouble in that sense. I can't quite tell which one that is, but it is Rhino, who ran a little bit wide. Still about 34 seconds to catch up to their teammate, Joe Wandering. And actually that is Felix, I believe, who's about to come up and lap them just about. Which is the car technically directly ahead of John Wandering on the timesheets. So the blue flag's being waved, and actually, I believe that's also Nils, our race leader, that's coming up to these guys as well. Who's on lap 51. The gap 9.5 seconds down to Sailor. Gonna go on board with them just to see how the Audi manages to get past the McLaren up ahead. Yep, the McLaren pulls off to one side. Will they get back on the racing? No. He spots the Ferrari, and that is fair play to them. Fair play to Rhino for that one, or John Wandering actually for that one. That was, again, both very confusing. With the name tags and such not being on. And with everyone just being really shuffled around the track as well. But John Wandering, we actually do know he's very sporting regarding that sort of stuff. So fantastic to see him just spotting those and braking just to let him go as well. So perhaps not the best of results for John Wandering today, but certainly as usual just showing his level of sportsmanship. The gap down to 8.6 seconds, so Sailor's been charging a bit perhaps. Nils has been letting off the pace a little bit as well. Carbon, it doesn't look like they're going to be catching anyone else anytime soon, but they managed to get an 8.7 second gap down to Wyber in the other Ferrari, so it's going to be 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 positions. And in fact, you can actually just see there is Tetsu Komura, the Mercedes of Checkered Flag Motorsports. They are only 2 seconds behind Wyber at this stage, and of course we know Wyber does have the damage, so Tetsu has every single advantage in his favour. Perhaps not tyre wear, I don't know. No, he doesn't have tyre wear in his favour, but he has quite a lot of advantages in his favour anyway, the lack of damage certainly being one. And he's gonna come down to the last lap. We've got to remember, it's one thing to catch a driver, it's another to pass them. Tetsu's gonna go all out on this as Nils is starting the final lap of this race, and actually the calculation has been dead on perfect. Look at the clock, we're only just about to go over to the 1 hour marker. Nils flying around at the moment, the gap continuing to go down as he's just sort of managing his pace, bringing the car home onto the last lap of the race for the guys in 4th and 5th. About 1 second is the gap. Gonna go on board with Tetsu. Of course, our pole sitter, extremely unfortunate early on to pick up the damage and having to lose a fair bit of time because of that. You see them understeering a little bit on the worn rubber. It's going to be close between these two. I think it's going to come down to the final straight. But it is going to be this guy, Nilsman, who is going to come across the line and who's going to win round 1 of DRL GT here at Blue Moon Bay. Second will be Sailor. Third will be Dynamic Carbon. And it is going to be a race to the line between Wyber and Tetsu. Will Wyber manage to hang on? They do have the damage, and Tetsu's in the slipstream as well. It's going to be close. I think Wyber just about hangs on. So a fantastic drive by Wyber, it has to be said. Managed to hang on to that. The strategy was right to not pit him. Joseph Burns coming across the line for his first race completion in DRL. So they take 6th. 7th was Felix in the end. John Wandering comes across the line in 8th. And NS Rhino will be the final car finishing There they are, coming across the line. It was, of course, this guy, Nilsman, taking the win here today for Scuderia Nuke Shoddy. Congratulations to them. Fastest lap in the end as well. No extra points for that though, but it is a fantastic way to kick off the season for the German driver. Of course, fantastic way to kick off the season for me as well, being team manager and such. I'm sure Joe Witt would also be quite pleased with that result. That was a very solid opening race, I have to say. No doubt there'll be a couple little things that the stewards will have to check into. But for the most part, I'd say that was a very, very clean opening round of the season. And I really do have to give the drivers credit for that. Here are your final results then. There you see Nilsman, car 62 on top with Sailor. Also a very good start to the season for Team Black Diamond. Perhaps Dynamic Carbon, with the success that Dynamic Esports has been having recently, perhaps looking just for a little bit more in terms of the opening result, but we'll have to settle for third at the moment. Wybet again fourth, so that puts Scuderia Nuke Shoddy, I believe, at the top of the team's championship with that kind of result. So very, very solid start to the season for my lads. I'm very happy with that. Tetsu Kobura also at pole sitter. Very unfortunate race with the picking up damage and such early on, then mid-race as well. Couldn't quite get Wybear in the end, but it was a fantastic effort, has to be said, and certainly a very exciting prospect to see in the future races of the series. Joseph Burns as well in the Lamborghini. That was actually a very decent display by them for their first race in DRL. So props to them and managing to finish. Of course, congratulations to their teammate for unfortunately not finishing. Gonna probably have to work on the setup of the car to make it a little bit less oversteery in the future. Felix for LD Sport Team RL. They managed to get 7th, although they were a lap down in the end, but I think that was just due to them slowing down enough to allow Nils to pass, to not do an extra lap. But again, Felix finding his feet still, but should come good a bit later on in the season, we hope. Perhaps on more traditional circuits. We know that he is more of a fan of said traditional circuits, as are quite a lot of drivers. John Wandering managed to take 8th position ahead of their teammate NS Rhino. So both McLarens and Foxcatcher Racing, not the kind of start to the season they'd be hoping for. They'd be looking to improve further on, but it was a decent back and forth between both of them throughout the race. One was on top, then the other. In the end, it was John Wandering who came out on top on that occasion. So that pretty much concludes round 1 here of DRL GT. I nearly said DRL DTM, but no, DRL GT it is. Hopefully I'll be better by the next race. So next race will be taking place at Interlagos on the 29th of June, so definitely stick around on the channel to see that. That's going to be a fantastic race. We see some fantastic action before, perhaps to get yourselves prepped for the excitement to come. Perhaps watch some of the previous races we've had at Interlagos, especially in the DRL DTM series. That was plenty of overtaking and fantastic racing that went off there. It's a track that really does lend itself to good racing and very creative racecraft. So definitely watch out for that to come. Of course, the ballast, 1% for 3rd place, so that goes Carbon's way. 2% for 2nd place, so that goes Sailor's way, and 3% for 1st place, so that goes Nils's way. So gonna be interesting to see how that spices things up. But as I said, I think that pretty much concludes the stream here today. I have been a very sick Nuke Shot Zokyo. This has been Dynamic Racing League's GT, and we hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and thanks for putting up with me. See you next time, folks.